to our first caller of the day. I thought she'd fallen out with us. I'm so glad she's back to talk to us. We're going all the way to the Ontario area of Canada. And our good friend, Granny. How you doing?
Oh, well, we're just really, really happy to be back, me and Grandpa. We were a little under the weather. Oh, my goodness. We were like under the weather, and we just had to take a total break. But, Kevin, I tell you, we were listening to the show, and the laughs and the giggles that we got listening to you. You should have your own comedy show. You are just absolutely all that and the bag of chips. I'm telling you, we're so thankful for you. But unfortunately, we didn't get a hold of you there about the heart medicine. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, just what you were talking about there. I'm really glad you've picked up on that, and I'm even more glad you enjoy it. But that's the kind of person I am typically. If you were having a conversation with Kev Baker in the street or in the pub or something, I'm somebody that makes jokes out of all the most inappropriate things. I talk about the real serious at times, but I always lace it with what I think's a bit of humour. And my humour isn't for everyone, but I'm glad there's somebody out there that enjoys that. And it's just part of me being the real Kev Baker. So I'm glad you enjoy it, Granny.
Well, it's absolutely Scott and me doing it, and we really appreciate it. You're like a good drug, okay? That's all I have to say. But the reason I'm calling in is because, well, for the last couple of weeks when we haven't been calling in, you've been touching some really, like, major subjects with us. And, in fact, like, I lost your email address and everything to get your home address. But you know what, Kevin? We've decided we just love so many of the brothers and sisters on the program and in the chat. Like, we're not connected, but we can read what's going on. And we're just so thankful. So we've decided, we've talked about it. Instead of me sending you all this information, we just like to share what's went on in our life. Now, you've brought up about doppelgangers, okay?
Oh, and yeah, I love that subject.
Oh, brother, I'm telling you, what has happened to us since 1991, well, particularly me, but of course, Grandpa's all in it because he's the hubby, right? But it started in 1991. We had taken off, and we go on holidays for 3 weeks, take the kids to this, it's called Manitoulin Island. If you ever come to Canada, you have to go there. It's just precious. And so we would go there and rent a cottage with the children, and spend 3 weeks there and just have a ball. Well, in 1991, we get home and the phone's ringing. So I pick up the phone and it's my kid's sister. And she right away says, "You think I didn't see you last night at the bar with that guy?" And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I have just literally walked in the house. We were in Kagawang, Manitoulin, and I don't know what you're talking about." She said, "I saw you at the hotel last night with that guy." I said, "Hey, sis, I don't know what you're talking about, but unless I was able to transport from Manitoulin, which from my home where she was accusing being would be 2.5 hours, get there, go to my hometown, imagine to a bar where everybody would have known me, and go there with my boyfriend instead of my husband, and then get back to camp in order to get ready to pack up and come home." Okay? So I said, "Look, I don't have time for this nonsense." I said, "We've just got home. I got to get unpacked." Well, Kevin, if you wouldn't believe, all of a sudden, people are coming up and talking to me. And I'm a very friendly person. I love people. They're just totally wonderful. And so I have no problem talking to people. So when somebody comes up, and especially if I recognize them from a school or whatever, I would automatically have no problem talking. I didn't realize, Kevin, they weren't talking to me, okay? So all of a sudden, I like to be back in the day, back in the 90s, going to the bingo. Well, I'd walk into the bingo, and all of a sudden, I'd be, the girls selling me tickets. "Oh, you're back here to win the jackpot again." I'd be like, "What are you talking about? I have not won the jackpot. I haven't been here in 2 days or a week or whatever." And this went on and on. Well, one day, Kevin, I walked into the bingo, and there's this old couple, and I always, as bingo players back in the day, everybody had their favorite place, right? Well, there's this old couple there, and I see they're in my place, and so I'm going to go look about, and they're going, hey, come on over. Well, I don't know about you, Kevin, but if I saw any one of my children, 10 feet away, I wouldn't question whether or not it was my kid, okay? They did not know that I was not their daughter till I was right in their face and said, do I know you? And they're like, oh, my goodness, we thought you were our daughter. I'm like, wow, when's the last time you saw her? Well, this continued, and I got very ill and did not leave the house for about 4 years. And finally, Grandpa gets me out there, and we start going out to our old favorite restaurant. Once again, I'm a friendly person. There's a waitress there. She comes up. She says, hi, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. How are you tonight? She says, how was your trip to Barbados? I'm like, excuse me? She said, how was your trip to Barbados? I said, I don't know who you think I am, but I haven't been to the Barbados. She goes, oh yeah, you were in there, and you were leaving like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, and spending. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then she looks at my husband. She goes, oh my goodness. Okay, well, we started heading to that spot, Kevin, and if we weren't missing this girl by even at one point half an hour. All right, the waitress was losing her mind.
Hold that thought, Granny. Hold that thought. We'll be back after the break with more. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of today's show, and I don't want to waste any more time. Now, Lee over in the UK, he's got so much credit left on his phone. If we do happen to have nobody calling in, I'm going to tell Lee to call in really, really quickly. I'll get to his call quick, and we'll get his question, we'll get his statement out there. But I love opening up the phones for all of you, and I'm really going to be taking these calls, and some of them, the ones that are more YouTube friendly, I will be posting them, because I think you deserve an equal platform to me and everyone else here, and everyone's voice is equal. And I go to the mysterious universe all the time, and I look for the weird, I look for the woo, and you love it. But I love nothing more than hearing your woo. It's the real woo. It's the stuff that none of us can dig up online. It's personal to us, and we all love to hear about it. And we've got Granny on the line all the way from Ontario, and I am loving this story about the doppelgangers. And Granny, before I hand it back to you, a good few years ago now, I was just walking down the street when we had moved to this area of Glasgow, and my son was with me, and we're walking along, and this character approaches me. I didn't know him from Adam, never seen him in my life before. And he's all smiles, he's all happy. Oh, brother, mate, how long's it been? And giving me hugs and talking away to me. And remember that person, and that other person, and just like you were, I'm thinking, hang on, right? Something's really wrong here. Something's off, and then it dawned on me. I says, mate, I don't think I'm the person you think I am. And he gave the name. I couldn't remember the name. Didn't mean anything to me anyway. I says, no, mate, I'm from Inverness originally, and told him. And honestly, the guy, it's the look on his face that was the most important part of this whole exchange, because it was his realization, or his brain trying to come to terms with what, in all effect, in his mind, was somebody that he knew. And even when I told him he couldn't come to terms with it, now I'm just glad, Granny, that this character I look like isn't some kind of bad boy out there where I have to be looking over my shoulder every 2 minutes in case somebody mistakes me for him. But this happens from time to time, right? And you seem to have been lucky enough, you've had a bit of a story here with your one. The parents, I mean, that is unbelievable. And like you say, if anyone's going to recognize somebody, you'd expect it to be that person's parents. So this is uncanny, and this is exactly what we talk about when it's the doppelganger effect. So I hand it back to you, Granny. Tell us more.
All right. Well, like I said, my sister as well. She's the one that first started it, seeing me at this hotel, and you can imagine her just glaring at this woman, thinking it was me with another man. All right. So, and then so we start going to this restaurant once again, and this waitress is getting really confused, and I had gotten fat at one point. Pardon my political incorrectness, but I got really overweight, and it seemed like I dyed my hair, I was losing weight, so was this woman. All right. And my poor husband, he couldn't believe what was going on. And so finally, I even brought one of my friends. I said, you ask this girl, you ask this waitress, what is going on? And she literally told her, she said, it's absolutely uncanny. They're identical. If I had my hair red, she was red. There was only that one time that we were literally a half an hour apart at that restaurant. All right? And so this would go on and on. Even we were going to do a house deal and with my daughter and my son-in-law, and the lawyer is telling me, oh, yeah, I see you every day downtown going for lunch. I'm like, no, you don't. He said, oh, yeah, I see I said, look I have not been down in this area for 10 years. Don't tell me you see me every day. And this was just, overwhelming. A friend of mine, who knows me inside and out, was at this point, it was called Kmart store, and she was right behind this woman. And she followed her out to her red truck, and was literally calling out my name and everything else. Of course, this woman was ignoring her. Well, then she called me up and she got really upset with me. Like, how dare you ignore me and get into your truck and take off? I said, since when do I own a truck? And she's like, oh my goodness. So I've never seen her. I have never seen her. My daughters have seen her in a van. Other people have seen her. People come up, they act like I'm her, and I'm telling you, sometimes it really does feel like a parallel universe, because the only way these people know that it's not this other person is by my husband.
And she must have a similar story to tell in reverse, I would imagine.
Absolutely cannot.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because there must be people from your life, your sphere of influence, that have come across her. Like you said, one of them seen you out, having a drink with another man. And I bet you from time to time there's been interactions that she could probably phone into the show. And I tell you what, right, I get the goosebumps even thinking of this. But imagine right now if tonight, or maybe one of the shows during the week this week, we get a call from Ontario area in Canada, and we get somebody telling us that there's this woman that keeps on getting mixed up with.
You know it. And that's just like God to use somebody like you to do it. You know that.
Oh, I've got goosebumps, literally, Granny, even thinking about that. And even us thinking about it, the intent, us sending it out there, somebody might hear this and say, listen, now we know who you look like. And I know that we've got multiple listeners in Canada, in the Ontario area. I know that for a fact. So look, wouldn't it just be as weird and wonderful and woo of the Kev Baker show to maybe bring two doppelgangers together? And I have to question, can two doppelgangers be in the same room? And I'm going maybe time travelers.
I know, it's so bizarre, and really, the 1 point, half an hour difference. Can you imagine if we would have ran into each other? But
maybe, there you go, Granny, right? Maybe it's like the universe. Maybe it's some way the universe always conspires to make sure that you just miss each other. You literally, there's something out there, like you say, it's a glitch. And maybe to correct the glitch, it rearranges things. It does its quantum karmic woo. And there's actually no physical way you'll make it there. Even if one day you were going to get there, something would happen to her where she wouldn't be there. I honestly think that might be the case. Yeah. But then I was looking at something online there, and we still don't have any callers on the line, so we're good. We can still talk. Don't you panic about airtime and things, Granny. But in Scotland, there's a story about two guys that met each other on a flight, and it's on BBC News, and it's the most uncanny thing I've ever seen. I mean, this is two versions of the same person, and typically Scottish. You know, they've got the big wild ginger beards, and it's uncanny. What do you put it down to, Granny? Do you think it's like some
You
quantum
know what?
entanglement,
Okay.
a glitch?
Well, you know what? Like my grandpa, okay, military man, North Nova, he had some woo stories, okay? And I don't know, like there was a lot of weird stuff that took place here in Canada, you know, in Montreal and stuff like that. I can't even begin to tell you what kind of weirdness took place because, Kevin, look where we're at all these years later, okay? Like I'm a granny, I got my oldest grandson's about to graduate. Oh, talk about poor 2020 graduation. But, you know, like who knows? You got to remember, Magdala, you were talking about Brazil and all this. Like, come on, you know, there was some woo with the boys from Brazil.
Big time,
you know,
big time.
You don't know what transpired. Like, I was in that period of weirdness that they were doing all kinds of experimental things. So who knows? Like, they say you've got like 6 or 7 of lookalikes. Well, she's apparently identical and, believe it or not, has the same kind of weird voice that I do.
Well, I would I don't like that you call it weird. I call it wonderful. You're very distinctive, totally unique, and we all love to hear from you. But this really does get you thinking. And I know that one day I was told, and this was when I was really young. This was like teenage years in Inverness, that I had missed my doppelganger. Very, very small window of time. And if memory serves me correctly, it was either my mum or it was my cousin I was with. And they were kind of freaked out. So I knew it must have been a good one. Because you can tell the good ones. There's people that look like people, and that's one thing, right? But then there's doppelgangers. And it
You're
has
talking twins.
yeah, it has an effect on people. Do you think, Granny, that out of 7.5 billion people approximately on the planet, do you reckon most of us have a doppelganger out there?
Well, I really do. I mean, right now in this period in time, if we can just possibly imagine, like what we're seeing now is like it's old technology. It's new to us, but it's old technology. And who knows? I mean, like I said, I bring up the boys from Brazil and Magdala because he was all about like, you know, twins and doing all manner of stuff. So yeah, there definitely could be. Parents were taking all manner of experimental drugs back then. I mean, everybody was beginning to trust their doctors. I mean, it was a means for some people to be making money by being used in experiments. So who knows? And I can tell you right now, Kev, I have a really cool family, but like they put the funk in dysfunctional, okay? And so I know that like one of my youngest aunt who could possibly be my mother, and there's a whole different story altogether. She was right into like, you know, heading down to Montreal and getting into all of these university experiments and stuff like that. So we don't know. We are only seeing and hearing now and being open to what has actually been going on for years.
Oh, but I tell you what, the whole twin thing is it's really interesting stuff when you look into twins. And I've been kind of fascinated by that. There's almost like a quantum entanglement. And it's more logical how that would work, you know, both forming in the same womb and things. And I just wonder, though, if you have somebody that looks like you, I would have to imagine if you looked at the DNA, there'd be certain markers that are certainly the same. So then that begs the question, can you have a twin that was born to somebody else? Woo. Now
and
that's
is it possible? Yes, but here's more woo, Kevin. Okay, first of all, you know I'm negative. I'm A negative blood. I'm like born on the Ides of March. Okay, I'm a left-handed person. I'm totally woo as far as like being in the lower bracket of the world's population. And I often wonder myself, people, like, they've made all kinds of accusations of people like us with negative blood and stuff like that we're alien or Nephilim. But like, I'm definitely, really wondering, because we do have this, like, kind of, I don't know, special stuff happening now and again. And I've been really, really apprehensive to share with you, Kevin, because you sit there, you do shows, and Grandpa and I are sitting there, of course, once again, laughing at your Scottish humor. I could just hug you a million times. You're so funny. You're a drug. And anyways, but you're hitting our life, Kevin. And I know, once again, I don't even want to take one more minute of your time, because I know there's other people out there that need to share. We're not alone, Kev. Like, this woo that you've got going on in your brain, you want to know that we're not alone. I say, like, oh my goodness, it's like you're in our living room. I was wondering, like, are you undercover yourself or what?
Undercover as in undercover what?
No, I'm wondering, do you do remote viewing or stuff like that? Because, bro,
wow.
you are...
No, hang on a minute. Oh, whoa, hang on a minute, Granny. You are freaking me out now, and I mean, I'm recording this on the back end. I know nobody can see the camera right now, but I've got goosebumps for a very specific reason, right? And this is so weird, because I always talk about the friendship I have with our good friend, listener, supporter of the show, Nancy. And we often have maybe 4, 5, 6 hour chats into the small hours, right into the next day sometimes. And I'm friendly with her husband and our families. We get on. So just recently, we've been looking a lot, at remote viewing and things. And 3 nights ago, 4 nights ago, it was sometime in the past week. This is why it's weirded me out. I started to look for videos on how you would go about training to be a remote viewer, because we're talking about the Akashic records a lot lately, and I think it's one and the same. I do think that field exists, and whatever the label you want to put on it, with the past, the present, the everything, the Akashic records, you call it what it is, right? But I think that is where remote viewers are going. They're accessing. People can laugh at it, but the fact that the military spent millions researching it, and, who's to say it ever went away? I imagine they're still using it today, because what better tool than to be able to spy on, for example, enemy facilities, enemy munitions, without ever leaving the base in your own country. You just get somebody to remote view it. It's a no-brainer. It can probably tell you more than satellite images could. So I'm just quite weirded out by the fact I've started looking into how to learn about it, or learn how to do it. I don't think for one moment, though, from the little kind of training videos that I've looked at, I've often said, Granny, and you'll have heard me saying it, I can't even meditate. My mind never quietens down. So I wouldn't know how to separate the raw info coming in between that and the voices and the noise that exists there anyway,
Oh, I do know. But I tell you, Kev, like, I've had conversations in, like, for months, years, whatever, with friends, and when I hear you talking, and we'll be sitting here and discussing even things that are going on in our life.
Wow.
So we've had some really strange happenings going around here, and so as far as remote viewing, I literally, at one point, I thought, this guy is getting trained in this or something, because you have been hitting areas that we have went through so much in our life, Kev. And I just want to be able to share it, because I know, once again, we're not alone, and people need to come forward and share their experiences, because a lot of people are really, like, losing their mind, thinking they're half crazy. Meanwhile, they're waking up to who they really are and their potential that God has given them. So, and you're a big part of that. You know that, eh?
Well, Granny, I think you give me far too much credit. But if I can do anything, it's making crazy cool again. Let's make crazy great again, Granny. Because you need to have a bit of craziness to navigate through this reality. Or else a really, really kind of good sense of humor, because if it wasn't for that, if we weren't all slightly different, a little bit mad, and if we didn't all see the funny side and things, and I know that so many like-minded people come to this show, it literally is like we're on, call it, pardon the pun, sorry, we're on the truth frequency, literally. Now, whether we get to that goal of truth, I have no idea. I can't think of a better bunch of maniacs to be sharing the journey with. What do you think, Granny?
Well, I totally agree, and I can't believe that the Comedy Channel hasn't picked you up yet, okay? But I want to say, on a serious note, okay, I want to talk about Ouija boards, okay? Because
Oh, please do.
oh, okay, I know there's a lot of people out there and they're experimenting. And Kevin, I mean, we got involved. I told you, I think the first time when we were first talking about, the woman in our neighborhood, she, made her own Ouija board. It was like the whole homemade thing. And these things worked. All right. But there are people out there dabbling right now. And they're getting themselves into dimensions, into problems that, they really don't understand. And then, of course, they start hearing voices. They start having hallucinations, which really they're not. They've opened up that paradigm. They've opened up that sphere. And then they go see the doctors, and they get drugs, and they just start just a whirlwind of demonic activity in their lives.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think uh, the little devices and even the monitors that we stare into, they you could view them as the Black Mirror. That little phone in your hand, that screen. It's almost like scrying, and then you get the apps and things that do the ghost box thing and everything else. And look, I'm not going all holy rover, but I do think, like you're saying here, I do think if you start opening up doors and inviting things in, then don't be surprised when it happens to manifest and you find yourself spiraling. After that visit to Boleskine House, and I thought I was doing it all well. It's really interesting. I got my laptop. I fixed my laptop today. I'm dead proud of that. Thought it was going to be a massive job. Just replaced the keyboard. But side note, I found some of the old footage from Boleskine House. That time I went there, before all the health problems, before all the madness started to descend on my life. And, when I'm walking away from that place, Granny, and I can even show this on a live stream one time, I say to the guys I'm with, I'm saying, there must be some kind of prayer that we could have or should have said before, we got going here and, try and rid this place of whatever's here. And as much as I know about the paranormal and as many people as I've spoken to, and lifelong, I've had this interest. I've seen Ouija boards. I've taken part in them before. I should know better, but we went into that really half-cocked, half-baked, not really fully protected, ready for what we were dealing with. And come on, I mean, Aleister Crowley's house? That's like an amateur boxer stepping up to fight Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury for your first fight. It was insane, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I don't know what we're letting in right now. And these dimensions merging more and more and more, and even NASA now detecting evidence. Not the NASA are the be all and end all, but we're starting to have the science to prove what we're talking about. And in one of these many dimensions out there, we know full well that it isn't things that's got our best intentions at heart. Now, I would like to think the optimistic side of me would say, well, in the many worlds, there's worlds where things do have our good intentions at heart. And there you have the good against evil, light against dark, demons, angels. I tell you, it's a weird multiverse we live in, Granny. It truly is.
And the hindsight of 2020 and what we are seeing and being, and people that have never had their eyes opened are having it opened, and it is freaking them out, Kevin. They are opening up. The world is ready. They are doing what they ought not and have been for years, and the warnings have went out, but we always go after that unknown. And like some of us, We were there back in the 70s and the 80s, and then literally had to deal from the 90s up to to present with the end results for where we, went where we ought not have. And so I was involved in this from a very young age, and many of our friends were very, like, you could get in the room and it was like Linda Blair type of thing with some of us. But I understand, because we were very close. Eventually, I became a believer in the Most High, and so I understand how the attacks came. But I just really, right now, we are at a very open spiritual time. Everybody knows it. It doesn't matter what religion your persuasion is. Everybody is realizing it. So we, for the young sake, we need to be really careful with these, different avenues that are opening up the spirit realm, which I do believe, if we still have CERN to consider whenever they're going to do what they're going to do. And I think they're, priming up some batteries in the next few years. So we need to be awake.
Don't you worry about that. I will be your chief CERNologist the moment they start firing up that machine over there in Geneva. And Granny, we're out of time. And little did you know that today you would be my special guest right here on the Kev Baker Show. I love opening up the phones. We all love hearing from you. And we all send a very special KBS and TFR love to you and Grandpa out there in Canada, okay?
We bless you and we love you all. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.